Welcome, wonderful people, to the Distinct and Jovial podcast on this fine 25th of May 2025 AD. Being presented by myself, Jerry, today. So, yes, it's a Jerry takeover, believe it or not. And I'm joined by my wonderful co-founder and dear friend, Dom.
Hello. That's nice not to do the intro,
there
isn't
you
it?
go.
Next time I'm going to have to make you intro when Hooper's on, right? So that you get interrupted, not me.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, great. He's an uncontrollable guest. and you're the only one that stands a fighting chance to keep him in check, Dom. So
I'm not so sure about that. I think the way that I just deal with it is just make sure that I throw him under the bus as much as possible.
That's a good plan. If you're listening, Hoops, it's not going to be that much longer, actually, before he's back on here with Chat Stevie T.
I know. Yeah, we've got some good podcasts. We've got some good podcasts and some good guests in the works.
Yes, we do.
We've got three new guests and 2 reoccurring guests and an in-person podcast planned.
Does that include the person I was talking about who cuts my hair?
Yes, it does.
Nice. Because I saw him on Thursday and said we need to get a date. Or get a month allocated. Yeah, nice. So, I'm just going to start off by saying all views on this podcast are strictly our own. They do not represent organisations that we work with or any organisations that we're affiliated with or any other person. So they're strictly our own. Okay? If you've got any complaints, write into us, take it up with us. Your beef is with Dom and I. No one else. Yeah. Doesn't represent anyone else. And
full Top Gear moment. If you've got any complaints, please write to us at BBC Publishing House.
Yeah,
we don't give a monkey's.
Exactly.
WB.
Exactly. So just talk to the hand if you've got an issue. The other thing is as well, if I'm not mistaken, this is the 48th episode, which means that we are closing off the 4th year. Next episode will be going into our 5th year. Officially.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely. So that will be will that be no, episode 49. That'll probably be Vanity Fair. So again, it'll be us as we normally do, discussing the year's kind of how things have gone. It's been an interesting year this year, I suppose, when you think about it. Then we'll have then we'll dive into some other plans, but we've got some big stuff planned for episode 50. I've got some big stuff planned that Jerry doesn't know about for episode 50.
Okay.
I love the way that we start these podcasts, teasing the next podcast. Yeah. It's like, let's just enjoy this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I've done zero prep for this. I know you think I have, but I actually haven't. So, if listeners, all loyal listeners, by the way, so I just want to say a big thank you to all the people that do listen regularly. I do appreciate it. It does mean a lot, and it's always nice to get new people on board. So I'm now on a constant recruitment drive for this podcast, so which is good. Let's just hope it spreads. We haven't had any celebrities come back to us, though. Quite gutted about that.
One of the things that I do find interesting, though, is I wish all of our guests would keep up to date with the podcast, because every now and then one of them will go, I didn't know that you did this. And I'm thinking, yeah, but that was from like podcast like 12. Oh, yeah, I've just started listening. Well, like, dude, right, we've done 47, well, we've done 48 podcasts, including our bonus one.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to remember what happened? I don't remember what I had for dinner last night, let alone what happened.
Well, Naved
2 years ago.
Naved caught up, didn't he? So Naved,
yes, he
3 years later, he went, I think I'll catch up on all of the episodes. And then he was pinging me stuff, and I was like, what? And he said, yeah, I was listening to like episode 12. What? I don't remember that.
I might put in this section one of those SpongeBob like screens. Where it's like 1 eternity later. Although with Naved we'll have to say 1 eternity later.
He's never going to live down that shit sound
He's
quality.
not going to live that down. He needs to do something else funny, and then I'll take the piss out of him for that. Right? That's just the way things go.
Well, do you know what? he probably will. He wants to fly solo as well. But look, we're doing all of our planning live on air. We can't do our planning live on air. So this is like closing off coming up close to closing off our fourth year, which is incredible. I'm going to start off with something which, obviously, all listeners, if you don't know already, you've probably been living under a rock, or maybe you've been doing hard time. I don't know. Maybe you've been cryogenically frozen. But Dom has purchased himself a house. Not quite.
I have indeed.
Not quite exchanged yet. No, you haven't.
I'm in the week.
Yeah.
I'm in the week.
It's all happening this week.
As of recording,
okay,
the 25th, we will be... So they wanted to exchange on the Friday just gone. Obviously, it's a bank holiday weekend, although some idiot is working tomorrow. Who would do that? And so this week we'll be exchanging. I'm sure I can go into a rant about all of the problems with housing, which I will do in a minute. But the completion date has now been set for Monday the 2nd.
Cool.
So that is a week on Monday. So at the time that this podcast goes out, I will be probably frantically cleaning this place, ready to kind of move. The good thing is the place that I'm currently in, I've got a contract until the 9th. So I've got a week crossover. So I don't have to do that kind of hokey cokey with a mover van coming out of one property into another property, where you all try and complete on the same day in one massive chain. I'm also moving into an empty property, so I can just go there, clean that, and then move stuff over the next few days.
Nice.
So got a bit of a plan, taking my first week off, which I'm very much looking forward to. So
your first week off this year. Fucking hell, Dom. It's bloody almost June.
As when one wonders why I've got such massive bags under my eyes, is because it's interesting. I mean, there's two reflections upon that, I suppose. When there's an element of wanting to build up confidence in kind of an ability to be an adult, right? I'm going to air quotes, an adult. And when I look back at the way that this year has gone, if we go from January to now, right, we're just coming up to the 5 months into the year. And I've gone from, I've got no idea what I'm doing in terms of the house, no idea what I really want, to seeing 30 houses, putting offers in on 3 in the end, and losing 2 and coming away with, which, honestly, touch wood, I found, I'm not going to say dream, because that always feels a bit far-fetched to me, but it's the perfect property. There's no compromises for what I want or what I need, and in fact there was even bonuses. It's got a few weirdities that I'm going to eventually have to deal with, and I think the biggest struggle for me going forward now will be, I'm going to say financial, but I'm going to call it first world financial, right? I'm going to want to do all of this to the house, and my finances only kind of go to that sort of scope, which is what I have to manage at work anyway, so it's fine. I'm a full expert in doing stuff with no money, and while also navigating generally the whole process myself, right? Dealing with estate agents, phoning the banks, getting on with the solicitor, making sure that they've signed the right paperwork, doing half their job for them because that seems to be the normal norm, despite the fact you're paying them $2,500 to do something for you. And in some ways, you're a bit that's real painful. But in other ways, it's kind of well, actually, I know I can do that. I know that I've now got a portfolio of almost confidence-boosting elements for me to take forward and be and when the next problem comes around, I'm sure I'll be fine because I've done it all before. It's, and there are days where you just kind of woke up and you went, oh, it's just another Wednesday. Oh, here we go, right? And there is an element of joy in reflecting upon the hard work comes up with a bit of reward. So, yes, don't get me wrong. Solicitors like one of the big things was the fixtures and fittings where they just missed 2 rooms, but it went through the seller's solicitor, the estate agent, my solicitor, and got to me, and I was the one that pointed it out. And I was a bit probably blunt. I went manager Dom rather than kind of leader Dom, so to speak, and I just emailed them all back and went, "You've missed 2 rooms. Why did it take to get to me before somebody pointed it out? What are you lot doing? Like, you lot are being paid and I'm not." And, like, to be fair to my solicitor, they did turn around and say, "Yeah, we'll do better, Mr. White. We do apologise, we missed that." I was like, that's fine. But, like, hashtag do better, right? It's not the first. Don't rush these things. So, and if I ever have to phone up Barclays again, I think I will murder Baby Rabbits, because their chatbot, that like navigation system to get you through to a person, honestly, the most infuriating thing I've ever been, to the point that I gave up and swore, and it went, "We're passing you to an advisor now." This was like
picked up
20
on
minutes
swearing.
into the conversation. I was like, ugh. And I would love to like find a person that decided to implement that and be like, let's have a sit down and think, why are you such an idiot? Because that is not a good idea.
They probably got an award on one of their internal team calls.
Oh, yeah, don't talk to me about awards.
By the way, just before you carry on, I have to say, I thought I went on mute when I went to clear my throat, and I don't think I did. So near the start of this, everyone's going to hear the and then I went on mute.
Well, that depends on whether I cut it out or not, because it's before when you said, "Welcome, everybody."
No, it wasn't. It was whilst you were talking.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Whilst you were talking, I thought, I've got a
it.
bit of a frog in my throat. And then I went to mute.
No, I think you went on mute.
Cleared my throat. No, you didn't. Okay, well, maybe it worked. Well, there you go. Yeah, no, they deserve an award.
But, yeah, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And interestingly, I suppose that's my Room 101 rant now, is because the only way to transfer the amount of money that I'll need to transfer is I have to go into a bank. But as they're only open for about 12 seconds a day,
well, yeah,
10 till 3.
You know, doing a 21-hour work week is, bless them. They don't get bankers don't get paid enough, Tom, to work extra hours.
No, it's a 20-hour week.
20-hour week. There you go.
Yeah, because they're open 10 till 3, with I assume an hour's break for lunch, and they're only open 4 days a week, Monday to Thursday.
Yeah, I'm joining a march in London to say that the bankers need to get paid more. Banks need to make more money. I feel sorry for them. So 20 hours. Come on, Tom, give them a break.
That's just my Monday.
Yeah.
What are we on about? Before I give a bit more of an update into the house, there's 2 things I just wanted to point out that I've missed. The first of all, I just want to say, for you, Adam, Mr. Swain, and for you, Jenny, I lost the game. I needed to get that one out there. The second of all, Jerry, I don't know if you've noticed that the edging on our screens is now not purple, and there's a little symbol in the top left.
Oh, yes.
That is it's now a yellow. So I've changed it. I've changed the studio to the colours. I was playing with that this morning.
I like it.
I've got an interesting fact for you.
Go on then.
The hex of the yellow that we use for the logo and the outline on here is Dead 47. It's DEAD 47 is the hex code
Dead 47.
for that colour.
Nice.
Dead 47.
Sounds like a sort of rock band.
Well, do you know? I think it's
some
47.
41. 40.
Yeah, it is. There is a film that stars a certain actor that plays John Wick that starts with 47.
Yes, Ronin.
Yeah, 47 Ronin. Which and that just like kind of led me into like, is there some kind of like conspiracy theory with us and Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, I'm making notes. I'm making notes. There's lots of connections building up now.
So yes.
So
that just made me chuckle this morning when I saw that, and I was like, oh, is that Brit? And that's inadvertent. Like, I didn't like specifically choose that color in like, because I've been known to just put the hex code that I want.
Yeah.
It was just pure luck on choosing the right shade and colour that I want.
This is synchronicity in action, Dom.
It is indeed.
Yeah. So anything else to report on then, with regards to the house? Apart from the fact that solicitors are inept and it's a very frustrating process, and banks are an absolute nightmare.
Well, and I mean, like, also, if you want something, good luck. But if they want something from you, you've not even got, 12 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes me laugh. They chase you, like, after about an hour. And you go, you only emailed me an hour ago. I'm working. I've been on calls. Like, give me a break.
So, the only thing that's delaying the exchange, which I now have received, is there was a bit of electrical work, and in the UK, for those that aren't in the UK that listen to this podcast, any electrical work that's conducted in a building needs an NIC ECI certificate, which is kind of the National Electrician Certificate to verify that this electrical work that we've done is not going to burn your house down. And I'm going to basically, I mean, this is what the estate agent told me, because I was like, I'm waiting for this certificate, and it's just not being given by the seller's solicitor. My solicitor was just like, yeah, we're having an exchange, and they're just not giving it to us. So I got hold of the estate agent, who's been pretty good, and she said, well, basically, I'm going to paraphrase their exchange, but actually I've now read the documentation, and it's exactly how the exchange, it isn't even paraphrased. So my solicitor's gone, we can see there's some electrical work, can we have the certification? And their solicitor's gone, the certification's on the NIC ECI website. We're not going to provide it, go and look for it, go and get it from there. My solicitor's gone, we can't find it on the website, can you please provide it? And their solicitor's gone, yes, it's on the website, we'll go and grab it. And my solicitor's gone, no, we can't find it. Eventually that got to me, and I thought, right, sod this, I'll go and look, because my life has been, as a software engineer in my previous roles, your life is basically how quickly can I Google something and apply a problem. So let me do a Google and make sure I do that. So certifications on the website are held up for up to 6 years. So it's from 2024, so I was like, that should be fine. There are certain parts that are locked behind certain paywalls, but it was like £3. I thought, well, I'll pay for it, just see what it is. I'm sure the solicitors. Can I find it? No. So I then go back to my solicitor and go, I've looked, I can't find it. I've accepted a load of other things that were fine, right? And they're silly things where my solicitor was wrong, but, you know, it's fine. They're doing their due diligence, which I accept. And I basically said, I can't find it. And I sent that to the estate agent as well, and I said, look, it's the only thing that's going to prevent this now, because I can't accept electrical work being done that hasn't got that certification, right? It's the only thing. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get somebody to come in, and because you haven't revealed what the electrical work is, I'm going to have to assume all of the electrics, and it's probably going to knock off £1,000. Right? Fine. Let's go for the negotiation tactic. Anyway, their solicitor was actually on holiday last week, and they had another solicitor covering, and she went and looked at the account and was like, well, it says here that it's on the website, so get it from there. We don't normally provide documentation that's freely available. So she went, but this has gone backwards and forwards. She went and she went, no, I can't find it either. So when the solicitor that was on holiday came back, I think she got a bit of a shoeing, or, you know, she or he got a bit of a shoeing, because none of us could find the certificate. Lo and behold, as soon as I put that email out saying, well, then I'm just going to have to do that, within 24 hours, oh, look, there's the NIC ECI certificate there and then. And I was like, that wasn't difficult. Why did it need to spend 3 weeks going backwards and forwards between that?
It wasn't printed out on a HP printer at home, was it? Just like let's just...
No, it is a valid one. Well, I will admit it is a valid one. What annoyed me most about that, 2 hours after I got that certificate, the estate agent's going, right, has your solicitor told you where to send the money yet? And I'm like, Gordon Bennett, you've delayed this process by about 2 weeks because you just wouldn't provide the certification up front, because you naively assumed it was on that and didn't listen to us saying no. Within 2 hours, you want my money. I'm like, right, hang on a minute. I've got to transfer it from here to here. I need a couple of days. And then I had to go on the phone to Barclays, and they're like, oh no, tried to do some transfers. It's like, no, you can't. You're limited to this per day. And I'm like, what happens if I need to do what? You need to come into the branch. Are you joking? Go stick that up. All right, fine. I'll
50 quid a day. Can you imagine?
Oh.
I can transfer this over the next 6 months.
It is a fairly substantial amount, but it still would take me 3 days to do.
Yeah.
Because of the amount that I need to transfer. So you're just like, well, fine, I'll have to go into the bank, and then it means I need to wait for the solicitor. But this is where my solicitor's now delaying, because apparently I don't deal with one person. I've dealt with the conveyancer, and now they're passing me over to the closing team. And she's like, oh yeah, it can take between 2 to 5 working days for them to look at your case. And I'm like, there you are. Right, on Tuesday, I'm going to be ringing her up and saying, right, where's the closing team? Because we need to get this shifted, because I want to exchange this week. The sellers wanted to exchange on Friday, just gone. So it's an amusing process that I do not want to repeat on a regular.
No.
Right? I'm hoping to never have to do this, right? If my plans that I would like to do for the house come to fruition, and I think I'm gonna have to compromise on some bits like early on, but like later term, hopefully that will be nice. I'm looking more at things like I don't need to move. I live in I'm going to be in a bungalow with plenty of space outside. There's a conservatory which I'm very happy to take down and then extend the property into that space, right, without compromising the garden that I've currently got. There's already too many sheds in there for the amount of stuff that I'm probably going to need. There's a garage which is inbuilt into the house, which is 7 foot, so I've got all the gym space. It just needs some like insulation around the garage door, and because it's inside, it doesn't need that much insulation inside, because although it's bare brick on the inside to the outside wall, that's just some standard insulation. Just got to deal with the fuse box, and the boiler might be a bit more complicated to make sure that those are insulated but not going to cause problems. So honestly, like, my hope is that I don't ever have to do this again, because I don't know what it's like selling. I can imagine selling is just as bad.
Selling and obviously buying then when you're in a chain. So you got a chain before you and a chain after. And in fact, I think the second property move that I did, I think there were 8 people in the chain. 8 in total, and that was a nightmare. Mental. And people were getting really pissed off and edgy and threatening to pull out because like one person in that chain wasn't doing what they needed to do, or the solicitors wasn't doing what they needed to do. So the whole thing could basically just come to a grinding halt. The whole thing could have just broken if people hadn't pulled their fingers out. But it was massively stressful. It's not something that I could recommend to anybody. It's lovely to get your own house, definitely, but yeah, I don't know. There are some people who they move every sort of 2-3 years. They keep moving, and you just go, what? Lunatics. Why would you put yourself through that? It is massively stressful.
Absolute lunatics.
Yeah.
What I find particularly interesting, like, so I've gotten lucky because I'm moving into an empty property with no chain behind me, so that's been quite lucky. We talked a bit about this in the last podcast with the Sunday trading hours. This is the problem. Like I said, the bank is open from like 10 till 3, right? Pathetic.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously, the solicitor only works during the weekday, so 9 till 5, similar, job role to I do. The estate agent mercifully does work on Saturdays occasionally because they do Saturday viewings. So sometimes she'll take my calls on Saturdays and things like that. But that's what makes it so difficult, is that I'm doing all of this while doing a very intense job. So sometimes I'm on a call at work, and then you got half an hour gap, and you're on a call with somebody else trying to sort something
28
else out.
minutes of which you're on hold.
Yeah, 28 minutes of which you're on hold. And like, it's like I said, like, upon reflection at the moment, I'm mostly actually quite proud, even though it's quite frustrating. I'm sure there's going to be some like really great times with the new property, some really bad times. I think the time that I think I might struggle a little bit initially is when it comes to winter, because obviously I live in a first floor flat at the moment, which is surrounded by things, whereas this time I'm moving to a detached bungalow, so I've got to heat it myself and figure out costs and bits and pieces. So I'm sure there's going to be some like difficult bits, but it's just going to be most of it. I think is going to be first world financial problems, is what I kind of call it. And I mean also I've done things that have helped. So I've paid off my student finance. Like,
woo-hoo.
Done.
Nice.
Yeah. That's now zero. I don't owe them anything. I'm going to have to phone this week HMRC because I'm going to have to say, can you make sure that they don't take any money out of my paycheck, please, at the end of this month? Because I don't want to try and get a refund. And I'm going to have to talk to our, the payroll within our company and be like, can you check that you've been told that this is not supposed to happen? Because it's... I'm fortunate I earn a decent salary, but it means that, at 9%, they take a lot of money from me. And yay. Right? And the bonus that we are very fortunate to get, again, they took 4 figures from me, right? They were like, yeah, give me the money. I mean, admittedly, that's what helps just paid it off, right? Because then it left, again, it was still 4 figures, but like way, way low 4 figures that I could use then some of that to pay it off. So it's quite a... I don't want to use like a life-changing moment, but this is a bit of going to be a life-changing change for myself over the next kind of June into the remainder of the year, and I'm kind of excited for it. I think I'm really looking forward to it.
It's going to be great, Tom. It's a milestone moment. That's what it is. You're hitting a milestone there, which is which is great.
And I'm only 40 minutes from you, not 3 hours or whatever.
That
it is.
drive to where you are now is just a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a night you can't
you
do
live
it
in the
quickly.
arse end of nowhere. We've discussed this.
Whatever. Oh, what? And you don't right now. Honestly.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. So no, you're going to be a lot closer, and I'm just looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having it closer.
Which means that and I'm going to have space. Why won't I set up a bit of a studio room in?
That'd be great.
Right, and we come and do an in-person podcast, just us two.
That'd be amazing.
Every now and then, not all the time, but like every now and then.
That'd be amazing.
Because we can do something different.
Definitely. Okay, well, look, I think this segues neatly onto, like I said, I've done zero prep.
Cheese slice this in.
So I'm just going to read out a bunch of stuff.
I'm just going to say, by the way, that phrase, right? I've started using
cheese slice
at work. Let's just cheese slice this in.
Got to cheese slice it in. What was the
looks that I've been getting?
So I'll tell you the origin of that. So a friend of mine, this is back in early 90s, and we used to go out to pubs and clubs, big group of us. Yeah. and he, this guy, one of the guys in the group, basically, he'd say, I can't believe, there I was chatting to this girl, and so just like cheese sliced in. So the whole thing around cheese slicing was that you've got somebody like trying to hit on someone else, and then so one of your mates then goes in and just like, oh, hello, and they just managed to just cheese slice their way in there. Cheese slice.
Did you not have like wingman rules?
No, not really. It was brutal.
Every
it was
man
like
for
it was Gladiator. It was very gladiatorial. Yeah.
Is that Gladiators with the cotton wool buds and you will go on my first whistle?
No. I'm talking like the OG Gladiators. It was brutal.
600 BC.
Yeah, with the like
Roman Colosseum
spikes and stuff that come out of the chariot wheels and like take you off at the kneecaps and stuff like that. Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
Bite your legs off.
Yeah, it was brutal. So that's where that came from. And I've used it ever since. Cheese slice. But you can use it in so many contexts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because we've discussed on this podcast, we haven't done that for a while, like idioms and bits and pieces, like we'll get the low hanging fruit, or we'll cross that bridge when we get there, or I like malaphors, which is like we'll burn that bridge when we cross it. Those types of things where you take two and smush them together and come up with something completely different. But because like we'll cheese slice that in doesn't make any sense because you can't really I can't really picture what that would be. But I don't know why I just said it the other day. Oh yeah, let's just cheese slice that in then. And there's just the looks that I got, and purely I was just like, I'm just going to use that more often, just purely for the entertainment, not because it means anything.
It's just a funny phrase.
That's the thing, right? Outside of this, we were talking a little bit about work, and obviously we don't go into detail about who we work for. It's probably easy if you Googled us, but. One of the things that I've been working on is a bit about communication and the style that I do that to get more out of different people, that I work with, and yet it's interesting how observing other people that some people go, oh, this person's really great at communicating. You listen to them and they go, yeah, but they say absolute bollock all, right? It's just naff, right? And I thought, well, let me try an experiment. How many corporate idioms and things can I get into a sentence? And I did that, and somebody went, oh, your presentation was really good. I'm like, what is wrong with people?
Yeah, they just love it. It's just
I completely an utter BS.
Yeah,
it just makes and this sounds really arrogant, but it's almost like, do I have some kind of like higher logical intellect that means that I can see through it, and everyone else is just like, no, that sounds really good, we can just cheese slice this in, we'll make sure we grab that low-hanging fruit. I don't like the phrase low-hanging fruit, because I always get the picture of, because then I just, right, this is really crude, but I get the picture of somebody teabagging someone just reaching up and just grabbing somebody's full sack. That's gonna send Swanee over the edge.
Plums. I can feel it all the way down.
Right in the plums.
Can you feel the tension in the air right now?
That's why I get low-hanging fruit. And then it's like, so I can't take that phrase seriously. Again, full Top Gear moment. In the plums.
In the plums. I'm not going to do the whole sketch. Whenever I mention it, whenever that comes up with Chats DVT, we go up into the whole
feel the
sketch.
Tension in the air.
Can you feel the tension
yeah, that's
in the air right now?
Talladega Nights?
No, it was Eastbound and Down. And it was one of the few scenes, actually. He didn't really star massively in it, but it was one of the few scenes that had Will Ferrell, and it's so funny. And it's the outtakes.
And it's all... It's non-scripted.
Yeah.
It's not... Yeah, it's non-scripted.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's just a comedian doing what they do best.
Yeah.
And just...
Yeah, I love it. Now, by the way, it's a malaphor. So when you say, oh, does the Pope shit in the woods, that's a malaphor.
Yes, because you're talking about... You're taking two idioms or metaphors and smushing them together, and it's called a malaphor. We've discussed that a couple of times on the podcast before, but yeah.
So before I start this next section, am I the only one that thinks that Pope Leo just doesn't sound right? Because it's always been like John or Paul or, but Pope Leo.
Pope Leo. Never really thought about it. I can't remember what his full name is, though. I don't think his full name is that, is it? Oh, I didn't think to get... He is Pope... Well, Pope... former... He is Pope Leo the 14th.
Even that doesn't sound right.
No, that's a former head. What's the new Pope? Oh, yeah, no, Pope Leo the 14th. The Google AI is just producing... John. Right, so do you know what his full name is?
Brian...
You're not far off, to be fair.
Oh, right, okay. I reckon his name is Brian Smithson.
It's Robert Francis Prevost,
a.k.a. Pope Leo.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Leo comes from.
I think, don't they have to choose? They have to choose previous popes. And apparently the Pope that they choose from the past gives an indicator of what their papal sort of style or approach is going to be whilst they're in I don't know what you say, in power, at the head of, I don't know, CEO? Because
the person that was... Obviously, the Pope before was Francis, but he was George Marinho Bergoglio, probably butchered that. He's Argentinian, so my born in Buenos Aires.
Pope Leo's he's a septic tank, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh dear. So his palpal, it's called a palpal name, or pontification name.
Oh, there you go.
I love the word pontification. That's such a great word. To pontificate. He is inspired by Pope Leo the 13th. Okay. Who developed modern Catholic social teaching amid the Second Industrial Revolution. Leo believes the ongoing Fourth Industrial Revolution, particularly advances in artificial intelligence and robotics, poses new challenge for the defense of human dignity, justice, and labour. To be fair, so I don't normally... Obviously, I'm not religious. I will hold my hand up, and I think that... religion is one of the biggest causes to conflict within the world, right? And what's silly to me is we all of them have the same premise. They believe in some sort of higher being or beings, and somehow don't believe that they're in control of their own thing. And there's all this bunch about fate, right? If you take it at a really black and white level, I'm probably insulting a lot of people, but I'm not religious. But from the sounds of it, like the way that like he's come across as by some of the things, he actually sounds like a bit more down to earth. Yes, he's religious and it's not, it's not me, right? It's not something I've ever really been part of. I can't do it because I disagree in conflict. But some of the stuff he's saying is sensible, like it's caring for other people and bits and pieces like that. That's what it is. I find religion contradictory because all of them will have something along the lines of you're supposed to care for others, and yet they go ahead and quite a lot of the wars are normally started upon some sort of religious entity, and then they go and bomb the hell out of another religious entity just because they believe in a slightly different god. I'm not going to go full Ricky Gervais, but
no, that's fine. Well.
If you believe in it, by the way, respect to you. I just don't want to be. Oh, look at this! Like I'm being blurred.
Oh, there you go. That's divine intervention right there.
Yes, this is technical, but it's just something I'm not passionate about. I don't believe in.
That'll be an ecumenical matter. That's all I'm going to say about it. Right. Well, look, I'm going to. Look, let's go on to the next section, which is all house. Because, by the way, I forgot to say at the beginning of this episode, this is the DIY home episode, right? For obvious
DIY,
reasons.
do it yourself.
So there's going to be a lot of things which is definitely on a house theme. I've got some facts, but I don't really know how this is going to work. But I'm just going to read shit out, and then you just jump in and comment on it as and when you see fit. The only thing that's not going to be house related are there a couple of things. There's a blindly rate which I cannot wait to do. You're going to love it.
Yeah, and it's reverse.
It's going to be
reverse situation.
Brilliant. I love it. And then there's another thing which I'm going to try out on you. I was reading up about it and I thought, this would be quite interesting. So we'll see if it works on Dom. So let's go back to this section. So this section is about all stuff to do with houses and actually cost of living, which is quite interesting, which kind of links in neatly into it. So I bought my first house in 1999 in Burnham. Literally just off the Huntercombe roundabout on the A4, which is nice. Literally sandwiched between Slough and Maidenhead and Slough. Beautiful place. And
Buckinghamshire.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just trying to think where it was.
Berkshire. Well, Burnham is Buckinghamshire, so it's right on the cusp of Berkshire and Buckinghamshire.
Yeah. We're talking like. It's very similar to where I live. Like if you actually go out of where I live to the south, you're immediately in Dorset.
Yeah, there you go. So it's similar kind of thing. Yeah. So at the time when I bought a property, average salary in the UK was, and I don't know whether to do this a bit quiz-like or whether I just tell you.
Yeah, do it a bit quiz-like.
Okay, let's do
curious
this.
To see how accurate it'd
be. Okay, so you can't Google it though, Dom, because I'm going to see you looking to the right. Don't look to the right.
Well, I look to the right when I think, but what I'll do is I'll keep my hands here, shall I?
Just put your hands in front of you. I want you to do it like you're pontificating. I want you to like pretend like you're praying.
Pontificate. Such a great
It
word.
is, isn't it?
Ooh. It must be about 99. That must be sort of like the 16,000, I reckon.
Ooh, really close. So 17,803 per
I'll
annum.
take that.
Yeah, definitely. The average house price. What do you think the average house price was in 1999?
So that would have been... Would it have been 4 or would it have been at 5 at that point? We'll go for 4, so that's... average house price was about 96,000.
It was 75,071.
A little bit off on that one.
So the ratio was actually 4.2.
4.2.
4.2.
Okay. I went for the 5.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So 4.2 was
I'll
the
take
ratio of average salary to average house price. You've gone and bought your house in the year of our Lord.
blimey.
I'm gonna make lots of like religious references. Now.
The BC is the BC is always an interesting one because my mum refers to BC as before children.
Oh,
And then someone the other day said, "Yeah, remember BC?" And I went, "BC,
COVID.
yeah, before COVID."
Yeah, exactly. And I said, funnily enough, when I said the date today, I said in the year of our Lord, 2025 AD, didn't I? So, yeah, so 2025 average salary.
The average salary for 2025 is just under 30k. It's like 29,000, I think, something like that.
Is that
In the
your
UK
in
or-
the UK?
Oh no, sorry, no, it's 20. No, because minimum wage is 20. No, it must be just under 30k. It's about 29.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 37,500.
Oh really?
Yep.
That's more than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. Okay.
Average house price in the UK.
That's about 270 something now.
Oh, spot on. You nailed it. Well, it's 271,000. So, yeah, you've got that.
Yeah.
That's a bullseye.
Yeah.
That's a 7.7 ratio.
Yeah. And to put it in perspective, from the average salary, I've gone for a 10 times ratio.
Jeez Louise.
Because you said, what is it, 37,000?
37,500, yeah.
Yeah, it's bang on 10 times.
Bloody hell. Yeah. So it's a 7.7 ratio now. It's almost double what it was just 25 years ago, 26 years ago.
Yeah. But you go even further back, and knowing like what my parents bought for their the previous property and how much they sold it for, it's like, well, yeah, absolutely. If I wish I'd bought a house 2 months after I was bloody born in '91, I'd be a millionaire by now.
Yeah, I don't quite know how that would work, but yeah.
No, I don't know how that would work.
I don't know how you'd sign the paperwork, to be fair. Probably just have to do like a handprint in paint. Something like that. So, most expensive city in the UK to buy a home?
Well, it would be London.
Correct. What is the average price of a house in London?
Oh, that must be in the... I don't think it would quite reach $1 million, but it must be in between sort of like the 700 and 800,000.
1 million.
How about no?
It's 476,800.
Okay,
but it's double. It's double the national.
I suppose that might depend on what you class as London, right? If you took like just Greater London, right, that probably
within the
would
confines
be in, like,
of the M25, basically.
Yeah, but if it's if you include
if it's
like
a
Watford
square mile, that would be different.
Yeah, so yes, I probably have been a bit ambitious with that one. It depends on that one. Interestingly, do you know where the where the next highest is?
I was going to ask you the next two highest cities.
Winchester is up there. I'm pretty sure that Winchester's got the highest average salary in the UK.
Salary?
Something. I think so. I think it's Winchester.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm not talking about salaries. I'm talking about house prices. Yeah. So the next two
probably
cities.
Be something like Manchester and Would it be Manchester and Liverpool? But I don't think it'd be two northern cities. There's got to be someone else down Bristol.
No.
No, I'm not sure then.
Oxford and Cambridge.
Oh, of course.
The next
of course
two.
it's Oxford and Cambridge. Oh, idiot. Of course it
Oxford and Cambridge.
Yeah.
Most expensive road in London?
Most what to
purchase? In terms of average
house
property price. Yeah.
It's got to be somewhere in Chelsea, isn't it?
It is West London. It's not far off. I mean, West London is not that big anyway. But specifically, there's one specific road.
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head.
It's Ilchester Road in Hampton Park.
Of course it is. Yeah, now you've said that. Yes, of course it is. Yeah.
And that's the most expensive street as well. Mm-hmm. Average property price there. Guess how much the average property price is in Ilchester Road?
1.5.
How much?
Million. 1.5 million.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I'm probably miles off.
Average. This is the average. Is 17.2 million.
What the French?
I don't know how much. What's that in terms of a ratio of the average?
What of the average salary? Oh, I haven't got it.
I don't know.
That must be about. It's got to be. Well, it's over 1,000, isn't it?
Oh well, yeah.
Yeah, well over 1,000 would take it to. Hang on.
The 1,000 would take it 30. To 2.7.
No, so it's not quite 1,000. It's about 500.
Okay.
Because it's about half the average salary, and then you add two zeros, okay. So it's about 500. 500.
Yeah. Mad, isn't it? Average.
But interesting. So this is a question to you. Let's say you won the lottery tomorrow, right?
Listen, have you been looking at my script? I was gonna. My next question was kind of.
Is that what it is?
My next question, genuinely, what the hell?
Yeah,
what the hell? Have you? I've written this. Okay, for people that don't know, okay, I've written notes. I'm going to flash this very quickly on the screen. This is how you and I think alike, right? So I've written notes on here, which I'm not going to give too much away. So my question was, if you won 250,000 in the lottery tomorrow, would you buy a bigger house or would you buy an expensive car?
So if I won so that's an interesting question because 250,000, so $250,000, wouldn't. So in my current exact situation, I'll be totally honest. I would do kind of both,
okay.
but not right. The 250,000 would be for renovations. Like I would put my 10-year plan into action on this property immediately. Right, so planning permission, extend, open plan, add the extra bathroom I want to add, do the garage, but I'd get people in to do it, right, and set up like everything. So I would be able to do the house probably within 3 to 6 months, and it would then be perfect with everything I want in it. And then I'd absolutely have stuff remaining over, which I would keep, and I would overpay the mortgage then for the next. I mean, actually, because it wouldn't pay. Well, would it pay off my mortgage? No, it wouldn't quite pay off my mortgage.
See, this is why I deliberately chose. I had to think about the figure. I had to think very carefully about it, and I was like, 250,000 would be right.
So what I would end up doing is I'd keep whatever's remaining behind, which probably would at least half with the potential maybe not, to extend a property, you're probably still talking like 40, 50 grand, depending on how much. It might be a little bit less, might be a little bit more. But then I'd keep it back and I'd overpay on the mortgage the most that I could each year, which is 20%. So that would probably last 2 years. So it would massively cut the mortgage down, and it meant I could shrink the term. And then cars are an interesting one for me because, yes, I do buy new cars. I lease them.
You are a petrol head.
So I'm a car fanatic.
Because I'm car fanatic. Like, probably the best. Doesn't have to be petrol.
Doesn't have to be petrol, right? I love Formula E. I love F1. I love the WRX. I love all forms of motorsport. And for me personally, yes, would I love a V8? Absolutely. Because I do love the sound of cars, but I also recognise that I'd quite like a lovely, nice luxury electric car, right? If somebody said to me, right, do you want you've got to live with this car for the next 10 years and you can only have the choice of two, would you want a V8 Mustang or would you want the electric Rolls-Royce Spectre? It's going to be the Spectre, right? If it was maybe the equivalent price, do you want the Mustang or do you want, I'm not going to say Tesla, but it'd probably be something like a Polestar. Again, that would be a much harder decision because it's a similar price range. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. I would and I don't ever want to. Well, if I had the dream, right, I do like the house that I've bought, right. I don't want much more for the amount of money that you've given me. In terms of the car, like I just need enough to kind of keep like on top of the newest car that I can get sort of every 4 years on a lease, that's comfortable, can fit everything that I need for things like summer camp and bits and pieces like that. Would I eventually like something a bit old that I can take apart and learn how it works? Yes, I've always wished I could do that as well. I don't have the time to do that.
So what I've heard is basically if you were to win 250 grand tomorrow, you'd be rocking up to summer camp this year in a Rolls-Royce Spectre, is what you're saying. Nice.
Not sure it would have the boot space.
No, you just have tent box on top.
Can you imagine? Rocking up in a Rolls-Royce Spectre with a tent box on top.
That would be hilarious.
Jesus.
That would be.
Jesus.
If there was ever a way to say,
to be fair,
that
it wouldn't fit down the lanes down there, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, probably.
You'll
not.
learn
Yeah,
that
probably
when you
not.
come. Like the lanes are quite titchy.
Jeez.
They're not horrendous, but there are some single track lanes.
Joy. I'm going to parachute in. Right.
Well, I'm going to reverse. Right, you need to answer this as well.
Oh.
Because 250 is an interesting number, isn't it?
It is an interesting number. It would all go into property. I love cars, and in fact, I was literally watching YouTube. I went down a bit of a rabbit hole watching YouTube videos of like the Porsche, the new Porsche 911, and just it's just such a beautiful car. But that's out of that 250 grand. If you wanted to get one of those that's 140 right there, gone.
Yeah,
140. It just doesn't. I know it's amazing technology, and I get all of that, but still, that would stick in the throat for me. 140,000 for a car.
And the thing so I would never want to own a super hypercar or something like that. Like I've driven them, love it, and I said like Mustang because it's a Ford, and the reason why I did that is because. Do you know what the servicing is on a Ford Mustang versus the servicing on a Porsche 911?
I don't, but I would like to know because I'm intrigued. Because that's one of the things I was thinking about yesterday was because they were talking about like the ceramic brake system and all the rest of it. And I was thinking, geez, if you had to change the tyres on that or the brake discs and the pads and God knows how much that would cost.
Oh yeah, it's like you're talking 2-3 grand for a service.
Flipping egg.
And I balk at my Skoda when it's when it's a full oil change service and they do spark plugs and it's 300 quid and I'm like fucking hell, it seems too much, but
that's
but then at the
crazy.
end of the day it is what it is.
So it's about 2 to 3 grand then to service that.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Something like that. I know it's a lot for an Mercedes AMGs, for example.
Yeah,
it really
exactly.
jumps up in the bracket, doesn't it? So
yeah. And, the ones that you always think about, like the Bugattis, right? That's the one where it's 16 grand for an oil service. And it has to be changed every year. Even if you do, like, 3 miles in it. Because that car was built to such extreme lengths. The tyres, you can't, if you get a puncture, the tyre is like 8 grand and it can't be filled with air because it's filled with nitrogen.
Of course it is.
Right. Now, we're at hypercar level, but even that scales like through the range. Like Ferraris need something stupid like an oil change every 4,000 miles or whatever it is.
Well, for God's sakes. Yeah, that's not good.
So yeah, car is not something.
Yeah.
And you say property, right? Would you get a bigger place?
No, pay off mortgage. Pay off the mortgage, definitely. And then with whatever's left over, fine. Just, I don't know. There wouldn't be that much left over. So, but yeah, definitely pay off the mortgage. I think that's the thing that I've been carrying a mortgage now for the weight of a mortgage for 26 years, and they've still got another 13 to go, and you're just like, fuck my life. So definitely pay that shit off.
Yeah. There's a fine balance. I mean, I'm like having paid rent, it feels very different. If you know what I mean, like, because it's an investment. I see.
Yeah, it is. It is. So you can't complain too much about
it's
it.
First world problems.
Exactly. It's first world problems.
So on the flip side, right? So my question wasn't going to be about that. My question was, let's say if you won 120 million.
Oh, if I won 120,
so you could in theory afford a house on that road that we mentioned where this spun off. Would you buy a house on that road?
No, because it's London.
London.
So I would definitely buy properties in York, Scotland. Like, I'd buy properties in Edinburgh, I'd buy property in Bristol, I'd buy properties in Cornwall. I mean, most of that money would go on I'm talking about 120 million, and about 90%, 95% of that would go on properties. I would buy properties abroad. I'd see if I could get a property in Monaco. That would be amazing. I'd love to have a base in Monaco.
You probably won't be able to buy it with 120 grand.
No, you would not. No, but with 120 million, you could.
No, you'd be surprised. Have you seen the prices in Monaco?
Well, do they know who I am? So yeah.
I'd just like to point out it's the Monaco Grand Prix this weekend. So
my favourite Grand Prix.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would just basically buy properties.
My favourite qualifying session.
and then I would get that Porsche. Yeah, because you kind of go, it doesn't matter, does it? If you've got 120 million, then what's...
But what's the purpose of the properties?
I'd just like rent them out and yeah, I wouldn't just leave them vacant. I'd Airbnb them, rent them out to anyone that wants to live there.
It's interesting because I wouldn't buy that many, right? I would buy a couple. I would probably buy... You're right, I would buy somewhere in Cornwall, I suspect. Right, really nice, simple, small, modern place that's like near the beach or whatever. And I would probably go, whatever it is, $1 million, whatever. That would be like a getaway place. But I was sat there thinking, I don't have a want for like some massive property.
No, not massive. I wouldn't get massive properties. I would definitely not get massive properties. You see some of this stuff on TV, like they were showing some of the properties in Beverly Hills and things. Literally, there was one which was, I think, it had the same square footage as a hotel. It had its own cinema and nightclub, and you're like, who the hell's going to live there? It's a joke.
Yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. I would love to have a property that had a swimming pool in it.
Yeah, you don't have to have a huge house to have a swimming pool. So.
No, and that's the thing, right? I'm talking like 5-6 bedroom, swimming pool with points to be able to put like elastic on so you can swim and not travel forward, so to speak. You can do it through jets, but there are like obviously you can just get a band to hold you back type thing. They were doing that in the pandemic. The Olympic swimmers were, so you're not moving anywhere, so to speak. And what I find interesting about that is, like, that would be expensive, and the rest of the money would be just for upkeep and living.
Oh yeah, you would need. Yeah. Well, it's almost like you've read my notes. It's almost like that I'm going on to a section now about cost of living.
I think, just scary.
Yeah, it is scary. This is actually kind of spooky now because it literally. I've not written anything on that Word document. So, here's a little quizaroo. So we're going to do 1995 versus 2025. Okay, 3 things. Okay, so this is a whole theme of inflation. 3 things. We're going to cover beer, a litre of petrol, and milk. Okay?
Oh, Gordon Ben.
Right. So how much do you think a pint of beer was in 1995?
I assume it's like average.
Yeah, average. Yeah. In the UK as well, by the way.
89 pence.
£1.68. You see, I thought it was.
Oh,
I thought it was sub £1. I would have had it down at sub £1.
Yeah, I don't think it was much below sub £1.
But yeah. So
and in 2025, it's probably nearer £4. So £3.75 is probably the average.
£4.81 as it currently stands.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Yeah.
A litre of petrol.
That was something like 46 pence.
53.
Oh, I'll take
yeah,
that.
Definitely. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now?
And the average now is interesting because it's actually gone down, I've noticed. But I think it was like £1.36 ish.
Dumb. It's £1.36. There you go. That's a figure they get in. Straight in there. Nice.
I only know that because because you obviously have to balance it, right? And
yeah.
Like at the local supermarket, it's £1.28 at the moment for petrol. But I know on the motorway you drive past and it's like £1.57.
Yeah, it's
like,
ridiculous. I know it's a joke, isn't it? Okay, and then third category, milk. Pint of milk.
Milk. I don't drink milk, so this is going to be a difficult one for me. A pint of milk in 95. 30 pence.
Oh, Dom, you're doing really well. 36 pence.
Oh, okay.
Today?
And now it must be like £1.28.
Funnily enough, it's 80 pence, so it's not as high.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, although I did Google it. I looked at multiple sources, and it's 80
suppose
pence.
I suppose that's probably right because actually, I've got like 2 pints of milk, which I have for like smoothies and stuff like that, and that would be about £1.60 for that 2 pints. That's probably where I've done myself in.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because you won't just
buy
halve
a
it.
pint.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't buy a pint of milk, do you? So it's very.
Not really.
It's about as good for like unless you just have it for tea.
Yeah.
It's not really worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So 80 pence. 80 pence a pint. Now here's an interesting thing about inflation. So it says. So I was reading up about it, and the Bank of England says a little bit of inflation, just a little bit, just a smidge, is helpful, but high and unstable rates are harmful. And they gave an extreme case of one, which has made me laugh. So in Zimbabwe, high inflation caused the economy to collapse. Between 2007 and 2009, prices increased. I mean, you can't literally believe what you're reading when you read this. Prices increased around 80 billion % in a single month.
Yeah.
So people eventually refused to use Zimbabwean banknotes, and they had. So if you go onto the Bank of England website, you'll see a photo of a Zimbabwean banknote to the value of 100 trillion Zimbabwean dollars. 100 trillion. I mean, it's so ridiculous.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because currency is a very interesting aspect. Ours is very similar to to America, where it tends to be like we've now switched to sort of like that not centennial, it's like that hundreds, isn't it? Right, there's 100 pence in a pound, there's 100, etc., etc. But then you think of things like the yen, and you see those prices, and it's like it's 400,000 yen, which is like 12.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
A Vietnamese dong is the other one that's quite interesting because they when Top Gear did their special in Vietnam, which is very good by the way, and they were given 36 million Vietnamese dong, and it literally came in like a almost like a suitcase. And they went round and they were like, well, we can buy almost anything. And then they went to go and buy a car and realised that they didn't have enough money to even buy something used. So to buy motorcycles, because that's the only thing they could afford.
Really?
Just because of the way that they just have their currency. And that's not to say that the currency specifically is worthless. It's just the way that they denote their currency. So you end up with a banknote that has got like 46 trillion, as you said.
It's just crazy. It's bonkers. I didn't even realise. I know. I've seen obviously currencies where you've got like hundreds of thousands on one note, but I've never seen $100 trillion on a note. I need to get hold of one of those.
$100 trillion!
I need to get hold of one of ththose. I'll see how much they are on eBay. That'd be hilarious.
Oh, just for
that banknote. That'd be hilarious, and then just frame it. $100 trillion. Yeah. I'm going to move to
going.
Oh, go on.
Going back to the house. By the way, I'm very much looking forward to being able to put pictures up for the first time.
Yeah, makes a big difference because it personalises it, makes it your own little space. It's going to be good. Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it on your behalf, Dom. I'm excited for you. I am genuinely.
Well, you're going to come and visit.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll just whilst you're not looking,
as I said,
put pictures up on the wall.
BYOC to begin with.
Yeah, definitely.
Bring your own chair.
Inflatable chair. Right.
Well, it doesn't have to be inflatable.
Inflatable's easier to carry.
It's true.
Yeah, there you go.
It's true.
I'm going to do a blindly rate. I'm going to go on to the blindly rate. Because I was thinking of doing a DIY quiz.
I've never done them.
And I might do, so depending on time, I might do the DIY quiz, I might not. Yeah. But I'm dying to do this blindly rate. Because you're going to love it. And I did this especially for you, Dom. Right? So.
Oh, God. You just want to trick me out, don't you?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. But it's going to be an interesting one. Because there's some
You're
really...
a shit poker player.
So, this is a subject close to your heart.
Okay.
It's cars.
Ooh.
Yeah. You need to blindly rate 10 cars.
Oh, gee. Okay. All right. Okay.
Now I'm going to keep a note as well on what you choose.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm just gonna. It's a 10. You say
10.
I need to be a bit visual, so I've just written 1 to 10 for me.
Cool.
At the moment, just to check. Okay.
Right.
It annoys me that 10 is 2 digits. Carry on.
Right. Could have done 9.5. Okay. You ready? You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think. Not sure.
Aston Martin DB5. DB5. See, we're talking about cars through the ages, right? So we're not just talking modern.
Oh, this is like the original James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a specific criteria or just my general opinion?
Just your general opinion. Yeah, we're not going to get technical with this. Just these are iconic cars.
Oh, I do have a soft spot for an Aston Martin. I do. I don't know what else you're going to put in. I can see why you hate this so much.
I so desperately wanted to do this, and I wanted to do this on a topic that's close to your heart, so that I'm going to watch the pain.
You, sir, are a cruel individuals. Oh man, I'm going to go 4.
4.
It's strong, but it's not my out-and-out favourite.
Okay, fine.
I'm just worried you're going to put some gumph in.
I'm going to just... This is more general, but just as a model of car. So you can think about it, either the modern day one, the one from 30 years ago, I don't care.
Yeah.
Porsche 911.
Oh, so the Porsches are interesting to me. I have a confession. At some point, I will own a Porsche. And that would be the point that I think I can say to myself, I've made it. I have a bit of a soft spot for the 911. However, the design hasn't changed in like 37 years or however long they've been doing it. And I think that they've had some duds. And it's now supercar money.
It is.
I am going to go for 6.
Oh. Okay. I'm loving this.
Yeah, 6.
Okay.
6.
VW Beetle.
Oh, 10. That's not to say I think it's the worst car ever made, but if you just had the original, and I grew up with Herbie.
Yeah.
Remember the blue and red stripe and the number 53 on the side. I grew up with Herbie, and those were great films. Lots of slapstick comedy. Cannot beat somebody being clonked on the head by a car bonnet, right? Excellent. But the middle Beetle just was like it's too gendered.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Right,
all right.
They really try to kind of go to that, like what I call like gendered female thing, and so I can't get on with it, and the shape just doesn't look quite right. The slightly newer one, the third Mark, actually is an all right car, but then it's just a Golf underneath. So, but out of this, it's probably going to be 10.
Okay. This is fantastic. I love it. Right. Okay. So, McLaren F1.
Oh, the original.
The original.
3-seater.
The original OG seat, and driver's seat in the middle.
Now I'm thinking here, because is there a better car in the world? Is there a better car? Because I wouldn't necessarily want to own one, but if Rowan Atkinson or what's his name came to me and said, would you like to go for a blast in one, I would sell a kidney.
Yeah, it'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
I think this is personally one of the greatest cars in the world. I cannot think of something better than it at the moment. I'm gonna go all in.
Oh, he's gone Leroy Jenkins. He's gone Leroy Jenkins. McLaren F1. Nice. Okay. Ferrari F40.
Ooh. So, I think that the Ferrari F40 is overrated.
Ooh.
I think that because at the time it was between that and the 911. Is it the 986 version, or was there a Porsche 986 separately? I am also not a big Ferrari fan, just in general. I think the way they treat their customers is wrong, and I think that some of their cars are massively overrated. And they kind of, especially their newest one, like the Cincinnati and I can't think what the one before that is. Interestingly, I actually think that the best Ferraris are their bread vans.
Right.
Do you know what a bread van is? So it's not always called a bread van, but they're normally 3-door estates. So it's just got 2 doors, but it's got an estate. Yeah. And so BMW just released the BMW M8 bread van or estate, and it looks really good. I think estate cars look much better. But going back to the F40, I think it's overrated. I don't think it's gonna. I think you're gonna throw a few more humdingers at me, and I might regret this. But the highest I'm gonna put it is 7.
Okay.
It's not better than a 911.
Fair enough. Okay.
In my opinion, I'm gonna upset like
the OG Mini Cooper.
Oh, I love a Mini Cooper. I've driven one. I love a Mini Cooper. They're so good. I had to sit on the back seat because I can't sit in the front seat because I'm too tall. Yeah, so interesting fact. I drove 2 very small cars in quick succession, and Mum, close your ears. So the Mini, this had a choke, this Mini.
Oh, my God.
And everything, and everything. So it's a proper old school Austin Mini. And the seats, they all fold like flat that in those things. But if you slid that seat far back, like I'd literally be like this, and I couldn't do it. So so we folded the seat flat, and I wasn't like leant on the back, but I had to like perch on the back seat to kind of drive it, and have to lean forward because I've got very long legs and not as long arms. And so I didn't quite get to enjoy it as much as I wanted to, but it was so much fun. And then the other car that I drove was a Fiat Cinquecento.
Oh yeah,
like proper small. So the in-betweeners car, but like it was an earlier generation. Like so, this was like proper small. and I couldn't get both of my feet in the footwell.
No way.
Right, and because the seat didn't fold flat. So I had to drive with my left leg straddling the gear stick with nobody in the passenger seat. They sat in the back, like they sat in the back left as I drove this. And I had to double declutch. So I had to basically accelerate, and if I wanted to change gear, take my foot off the accelerator, use my right foot to press the clutch down, pop it out of gear, give it a bit of gas, right, and then press the clutch back in and put it into gear and try and rev match there.
Insane.
So there's a lot of like this, but I couldn't get my left foot in the footwell to do it. But I love these. I think these are great little cars, and if I had the money, that would be the car that I'd get tinker with. So it's going to have to go. And are you talking like the new BMW Mini Coopers, like the Porsche, or are you talking just the original?
No, the original.
Just the original,
Yeah.
then it's a number 2.
Yeah, not the modern ones. No. The original.
I did like, there was a period I went through where I was interested in getting a modern Mini. I think the interior would drive me nuts, having the Speedo in the centre, not in front of the driver. But yeah, if you're going to go original Mini Cooper, that's number 2.
Yeah, because you see quite a lot of them round here. You know, they'll have like meets in Bewley and stuff, and then you'll see them drive around in New Forest.
Yeah.
Like, they're just beautiful, iconic.
Out of the cars that you've listed, like, I mean, a really good Mini Cooper these days is actually quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you buy like a really old Mini Allegro or something like that, that's not quite a Cooper, but it's the same shape, and you kind of, you know, I'd love to buy one like slightly cheap and kind of get it re-welded.
Yeah, exactly.
And give it like a. One of the things I'd love to do with a car, if I could, is I'd like to. Like, you want to keep it original, but I'd like to modernise and keep original. So I love things. So there's a company called Stinger, and they take really old Jags, like the E-Type, well, not necessarily the E-Type stuff, they're millions, but like the old F-Types and kind of those that kind of came later. And they make it look identical, but, you know, you replace like the prop shaft with a titanium one rather than, you know, the whatever it was made of rubber tubing. Right, and you give it proper brakes, and then in the interior you don't festoon it with like screens and stuff like that, but you give the dials a bit of a clean up. You make sure that all the electronics are modern, that it control, but it's still switches, and you instead of plastic, you replace them with like created like aluminium and stuff like that, so they're like proper clunks. And that's what I do with the Mini, right? I, you know, keep the original dimensions, but the interior, you give it like proper quilted seats, like proper comfy seats. You know, you replace the gear stick with like that's something that's like nice and modern, that's not going to break, and you know, change the linkers, and you make all the switches like, you know, give them that clunk, rather than a tick.
Oh, brilliant! Oh, there you go. See, I'm learning now about the cars you like. So I know you already know this because you're making your list. You've got 3, 5, 8, and 9 left. Okay.
Yes.
Right. This is going to make you laugh. This one's going to crack you up. A DeLorean DMC 12. So the Back to the Future.
Back to the Future. How much do I want to annoy people? Overrated. Very overrated as a car. It's got a cult following because of Back to the Future, which I think it's an above average film, but I don't think it's a great film. So I don't have as much of a love for this car. I also know that they were terribly slow, they're terrible to drive, and they rust really easy because the whole body panel's made of just steel.
Nice.
So they're a nightmare. So this is going in 8.
Oh, 8, not 9. You're not getting 9 with this one.
I am not sure. Like, it's not Volkswagen Beetle level. But it's not a 5 or a 3.
Okay.
So I don't know what else you've got. And there may be a few where I change these around, but at the moment I'm pretty happy with my list.
Okay. Right. Well, you've already mentioned it. Ford Mustang. And it can be any. You can go.
So
any year.
So I am like Richard Hammond. I love a V8. I love a V8. And to be honest, when they did the sort of the 1990s Mustangs are shit, right? They're pretty rubbish. But my dream car is a 1969 Ford Mustang Boss in British Racing Green out of Bullet.
Yes.
Where Steve McQueen drove that for 12 minutes and he doesn't say a fucking thing during the whole car chase sequence.
What a scene.
I want one of them. Again, I would do the same as the Mini, right? I would replace the interior, make it more modern. But to be fair, even the new Mustang, and I'm not talking about the electric Mach-E one, but you can get it with a V8 and you can now get it in right-hand drive. Interestingly, Steph's dad has one. They're affordable. They're not stupid money, but they're something a little bit special. And what I'd like is you to get that V8 soundtrack without having to do a rebuild or a tuning and potentially wreck it. It comes like that as standard. So it's a 3. It's a 3. And honestly, I'm very happy with how that
nice.
How that's come out so far.
Okay.
5 and 9 left.
5 and 9 left. So Jaguar E-Type.
Interesting. It's probably one of the prettiest cars ever made. Easily
I saw one in Exbury Gardens. The guy pulled up. It was pristine, and you just look at it. You just can't help but stop and stare at it and go, "Oh, what a thing of beauty!"
Yeah. I mean, it's oof. Give me. Yeah, I mean, Enzo Ferrari said that it was one of the most beautiful cars ever made. Yeah, this is going in 5.
Nice. Okay.
What have I got in 9?
So, what you got in 9 is a Bugatti Veyron.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
So, looking at that list, off the back of stuff that you've said to me over the years, and also just you were talking about cars, just generally, I look at that list and think, I think you've made some really good choices there. To be fair, but where would the Veyron sit though? If you could move the Veyron,
I think shuffle 4 down 1 and move the Veyron into 4. And that would be about
so
right.
You'd have McLaren F1, Mini Cooper, Ford Mustang, Bugatti Veyron, then an Aston Martin DB5, then an E-Type. Okay.
Because if you picked a specific Mustang, then the Veyron would probably come up. If you specifically said it has to be the one from the modern one, or it has to be the 69 one. The 69 one would be above. The modern one would be below the Veyron. So because you can have both, I think that's where I would do. But the rest of that I agree with. I think if you look at that, for me it's the pinnacle of hypercar performance F1. Then you've got the British robustness. Here we go. Then you've got a bit of V8, which is just a great soundtrack. The Veyron technologically is one of the best cars. I think actually surprisingly I'd put the predecessor, the Chiron, above the Veyron, so the slightly new one. And I think it looks better. I think the Veyron looks like the Volkswagen Beetle.
It does a bit.
Yeah. Then you've got DB5, Jaguar E-Type. Iconic. They could be either way. I think they're probably just so equal. And then a 9 again. Because you've chosen a group. The 911 is above the F40. I think the F40 is overrated. The DeLorean is probably a 9. The Volkswagen Beetle out of that list
still a 10.
Is a 10. But purely because of the monstrosities that came after the original.
Nice.
So I'm not kicking myself there. I think.
No, I think the boy's done good. Considering this, is this the first time you've been on the receiving end of a blindly rate?
It's the first time I've done on the receiving end. Yes.
Yeah, the boy's done good. I'm impressed.
I'm on it. Today.
You are on it.
I did all right on some of the quiz things.
Yeah, you are on
like
it.
That.
I thought. Do you know what? With this, you'll have fun with this. I know you'd like this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Right.
And you could go forever with that because there's just so many iconic cars. I suppose my question is does your what would you have?
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, that's a good point.
Very, very quick. Quick fire. Bing, 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 bing,
bing, bang, bosh, bosh. I think. I agree with you with regards to number one. I think the McLaren F1, but it's a sort of car that I would only drive around a track. I wouldn't drive it on the road. I would take it to a track and if I owned one, but it's such a thing of beauty for me. I look at the car and just go, what the hell? I mean,
I'm also really intrigued to drive a central.
Yeah, it's
because like I've driven right and left hand drives and both. Like my peripheral vision has been fine for all of them. I've been surprised at how well I can adapt. So I'm intrigued to do a central driving position.
Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? So definitely, I think McLaren F1. I think number two for me would be the DB5, just because.
Okay.
Just because.
It's a gorgeous car, yeah.
And then I think I've watched so many programs about the Bugatti. I agree with you about the. What's it called again? The new
Veyron.
Yeah. The Veyron would be third for me because it's just incredible piece of engineering. I think then the Jaguar E-Type, and then I'd start going down into the realms of the Porsche 911, Ferrari F40. So I would put the 911 above the F40, and then Ford Mustang.
You've got Mustang, DeLorean.
I'd then put Mustang, Mini Cooper. I'd put VW Beetle, and then DeLorean would be number 10 for me.
Really?
Yeah, DeLorean would be.
I mean, I can see why you would do that. Like if you go back to the original, if it was just the original Beetle, then yes, I would say that's probably popped up, and the DeLorean is a little bit farther. I think the DeLorean is massively overrated.
Yeah, it is. But it's one of those cars that divides people, right? People either go, God, I love a DeLorean. I think they're amazing, or I think you and I definitely are the same mindset, which is like, it's a shit car. It looks cool.
I mean, Gullwing doors are a bit like, that's cool.
That is pretty cool, right? Yeah, get that.
But there are other cars that do it, right? I would much rather have the Mercedes 300.
Thank you. Exactly. 100%.
Right.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right. And that's the type of thing that you would look there. I mean, like I'm looking at this list, and you can go on forever. You've got things like you haven't got a Koenigsegg, you haven't got anything. There's no electric car here. No. What else recently came out?
I know it's really bad. I apologise, but I deliberately didn't choose electric.
No. So, I mean, it's just interesting, isn't it? Right? Where would those come in comparison? One of the interesting things that I think is something to consider is how what people's opinions on different shapes of cars are. As well, right? So you could really narrow that down to just the shape, right? Would you rather have, saloon?
Yeah, 4x4 estate, like a Range Rover,
hatchback. Yeah, 4x4 SUV or 4x4 supercar, hypercar, sports car.
Yeah, you could do. Yeah, you could do.
Yeah, and I'm a big sucker for a big 4x4. If you put something like a Land Rover Defender on here.
I was this close.
That would be quite
well,
high.
I guess I was this close, and I was thinking, no, hang about, because let's try and sort of keep those out of it.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like very comparable cars there.
Exactly.
And it depends on what you're going to compare them with. Like you suddenly stick like a Land Rover Defender, especially the original. It's so different to any of those cars.
Which is why I didn't put it in. Because I was like, how do you compare that to a McLaren F1? You can't.
Yeah,
right?
It's like comparing apples to pears type thing. And then you've got things like, I'm just trying to think what else you would have. I'm trying to think now of iconic stuff or shapes. You haven't done there isn't an estate on here, I don't think.
No, there isn't.
No, and people are like, oh, it's an estate car, but actually, somebody gave me an Audi B2.
Oh yeah, they do some amazing.
Right, right, and the kind of predecessor to the RS4 and the RS6. The RS4 that had that V8, which hands down is the best engine ever fitted to a car ever, I think. And I'm a big sucker for a big estate. I'd love just to get an RS4 and RS6 would be amazing. But then you can go into the Quattro, right? We didn't think about that, or the Lancia Integrale, or do you prefer the more kind of coupe type one, which I can't think was called, the Lancia? Is it Lancia Beta? No, that was the Integrale, so it's a Lancia. It's going to annoy me now.
You're going to have to Google that. I know the car you mean.
I see the Lancia Delta, which annoyingly only ever comes in. Oh, that's going to irritate me, and I can't believe I've forgotten.
I didn't even mention Alfa Romeos.
Yeah, and I'm not, and I always. That's why I say I'm not a petrol head, because I've never owned an Alfa.
I've always wanted an Alfa.
Oh, the 037.
Which one?
So you got the 037, then you got the Delta.
Oh yeah. It's very wedge shaped.
Yes. So, do you prefer the Delta, which is like a hatchback, or would you prefer the wedge-shaped one, the 037?
Nice.
Yeah, this is the thing. I'm very passionate.
I know you are, which is why I wanted to do this, right?
And I'm just fascinated, because the thing I love about cars is all cars have basically the same idea and premise to get people to travel from A to B. And they have to adhere to certain safety regulations around the world. They have to work in all temperatures, right? You can go to this excuse of cancelling the ability to use a car because there's leaves on the road. Unlike the trains, where there's leaves on the track, cancel the trains, right? People use cars in -40 conditions in northern Russia to the middle of the Sahara Desert or Death Valley at +50 degrees, and they work time and time again. So I'm fascinated by the engineering behind it, and then people design such different designs to achieve the same thing. Even if you compare something like the Volkswagen Golf to even the Alfa Romeo Giulia, right? One is the dependable German, really nice, just comfortable, and then you've got the Alfa, which just looks fantastic, and then they stuck a V6 in it because they could.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Cars.
Love it. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one more section. I don't think I'll do the DIY quiz. It's a bit boring.
See what time it is. See what time it is.
Well, we've done one. What is it? 1.5. So not too bad. I'm going to try these and see what you think. Okay.
Those are
mind games. So you might need a pen and paper for this one.
Ooh. Oh, I don't have.
Or no, maybe you don't need a pen and paper, but just you'll have to do some mental arithmetic on this one. Okay.
Oh Jesus! All right. Okay.
Right. Think of a number.
Okay. I don't tell you.
Don't tell me.
Okay. Hang on. What are we doing?
You're thinking of a number.
Right. Okay. Between anything or just any?
Just any number.
Okay. Let's go for that one.
Double it.
Okay.
Add 8.
Yeah.
Minus half that number.
So half the number, basically, or half the original number.
So half of what you've now got.
Yeah.
And then minus the number you started with.
Yeah.
Is your number 4.
Yes, because that'll work for every mathematical thing, because that's just pure plain maths.
Okay. So, here's my next one.
Yeah.
It is maths. It is just maths.
And it just.
But I still can't figure out why. But I'm not good enough at maths to figure out why. But there you go.
I can figure it out in a minute.
If I had the time, I could do it, but I can't be asked. Right.
Yeah.
Here we go. This is mind game number 2. 1 + 1.
Yeah.
No. You tell me what. So 1 + 1 is
2.
Okay. 2 + 2.
2. 4.
3 + 3.
6.
4 + 4.
8.
5 + 5.
10.
6 + 6.
12.
7 + 7.
14.
8 + 8.
16.
Name of vegetable.
Aubergine.
That didn't work.
Most people say carrot.
Most people say carrot.
Yeah. It's because.
Aubergine.
It's because. So right. Okay. So. Let's take the first one. So explain. I'm going to pick a really random number. So I've picked a really high number now.
Okay.
So what was the rules for it?
So
double it.
Yeah, you double it.
Hang on, 100. Yeah. Okay.
And then you add 8.
Right. So that's where your 4 comes in. So. Yeah.
Okay. Then you minus.
Then you half.
Yeah. Then you half
the number.
Yeah.
Right, so that's. I've just got to try and work that out now. 50. That'd be. Yeah, and then you minus your original number from it, so you get 4. Right, so the reason why all you're doing is you're doubling a number. So if you didn't add 8 to it, all you're doing is doubling the number, then halving the number.
Yeah.
So you end up at your original number.
Yeah.
Right? And then the last instruction is minus your original number. So you're doubling your original number, halving your original number, minusing the original number. So that's always going to bring you back to 0. In the middle of that sequence, you're adding on 8, and then you do the half. So it's always going to be 4, regardless of what number you're doing, because you're doubling, adding 8, halving 8 effectively, and then you're dividing by 2, and then minusing the original number that you did. So you're always going to end up with 4. So that's just pure maths.
Nice.
The mind trick about that one, the other one they always get you to do is it's like they'll ask you to think of a country and it's normally that begins with D and it's normally Denmark, or they ask you to think of an animal that begins with E and it's normally elephant, right? Those two are because you've got such a restricted kind of amount, right? Because you've got Denmark, but think of another country that begins with D. And I'm now racking my brains as well. I've probably got someone on the podcast screaming at
probably.
us going, it's this.
Don't
it's
joke,
this.
for goodness sake.
No. Oh, yeah. Oh, hang on. What's my name? Dominican Republic, right? That's obviously one there. Right. But there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are only 5 countries to begin with D. Democratic Republic of Congo, which I would argue is I would know it as Congo, so wouldn't have thought that. Denmark, Djibouti, Dominican Republic.
Yeah, so
right, so there's not much choice.
Down. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So now think of an animal beginning with E, right? And most people say animals, they'll say elephant because there aren't that many, unless you kind of go really specific, right? So most people think of elephants because you can't forget about the elephant in the room, but you've then got and that's a generic. There is no such thing as an elephant. That's a species almost, because you don't have. It's not an elephant.
True.
It's an African elephant or a European elephant or things like that. So to then get to like other animals that begin with E, you think elephant, bird, dog, cat. Whereas actually you then go, well, a type of bird is an eagle. So it's actually the category is the way that it goes. You know, emperor penguin, earwig, right? They're subsets of insect and again bird. So it comes to that. Elk, again, a subset of the deer species. Yeah. So It's tricky. Like elephant is not. There's no such thing as an elephant. It's a something elephant.
Did you say
It's
European
a
elephant?
species of-
I don't think there is such a thing as.
Yeah, I believe.
Is there a European elephant? There's an Indian elephant.
I don't think there is. It's Indian. That was
Indian
the word I was
elephant. There's
looking for.
African elephant.
Yeah. I made a
But
bit
European
of a faux pas.
elephant used to be the mammoth, didn't it? Long time ago.
The European elephant refers to the straight tusk elephant, an extinct species of elephant that lived in Europe and Western Asia during the Middle and Late.
So here's a fun fact: at the point where they started building the pyramids, when they were building the pyramids, the mammoth still roamed the earth.
Yeah,
How mad is that?
yeah.
The woolly mammoth.
But then the Oxford University was around during the Mayan times.
No way. What the hell?
Yeah. Oxford University is very old.
How old?
Oh, ridiculously old.
That's insane.
I'm not going to check my fact there because I've just got that off the top of my head. Evidence suggests teaching activities were present in Oxford as early as 1096. But then the Mayans...
900, roughly 922 years old. That's insane.
And the Mayans were around until the 16th century, so yes.
So,
Time is weird.
wow. Okay, so basically, the Mayans were still around for like 400 or 500 years after Oxford University was founded.
Yeah, Oxford University officially came in the 12. It's 12 something.
And the Mayans are still around
but-
then.
Yeah.
That's insane. That is insane. Okay, well, there you go.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Well, Dom, that's me done. That's me done.
That's you
That's
done.
me done. Because I was having a look at the quiz questions to the DIY quiz, and it's just like boring. It's not exciting enough. You know, we do a blindly rate on cars, right? That's peak right there. I don't want to. I don't want to like. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll leave the DIY quiz maybe for another.
Yeah.
For another one.
Well, when I've started the DIY.
When you start the DIY, then I'll test you. Yeah.
So it's interesting. Obviously, it's a bit of a shorter podcast, but that's nothing wrong with that. We're into the hour, and I think that's okay. It's. I think some people might. Thank God I had to listen to Dom and Jerry rattle on for like absolutely bugger ages. This has been a good.
Did you enjoy that
podcast.
one? Thank you.
I did.
Good.
It was nice. It was like because I'm going to confess. My life is pretty busy, so I have not had time to prepare. But I'm very excited for what we've got coming up. So, this may feel like this is this is episode 7 of a season of 10 episodes, right? It's that filler episode just before the finale, isn't it?
But it's one of those ones that, like, I've really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, I did no prep for it whatsoever, but it was nice. No, it was good. It was good fun actually, because I was thinking, right, the world's my oyster here. I want to make it topical. But I don't want it to get too heavy. I want to have some fun with it. And I thought, do you know what? You are always doing things like, you know, we had Steph come on the podcast, and like you deliberately did a Harry Potter thing because you know how much you like Harry Potter. So I was thinking, like, you know, you're always doing stuff for the guests, and you sort of think, oh well, that's their forte. That's what they're interested in. That's what they like. And I thought, well, no one's done a blindly rate for you, have they? And I was thinking, well, what's your favourite topic? And I was like...
That was a corker.
Yeah, it was a
That was a corker. I really enjoyed
There
that.
were lots of cars. So the thing is, I did put some proper thought into it as well, because I was just like I say, with the cars, I was like, oh, I don't know, because how do you compare? So I was going to put an electric car in there. It did come up, and I was like, ugh. So Tesla... like it or loathe it,
would have been in the bin.
I know it would have been. And the funny thing was, I was thinking at the time, yeah, Dom, that will go straight to number 10. I know it would anyway, automatically. But then,
if you'd chosen something like a Polestar, that would have been a little bit higher.
So I didn't think of that one.
Purely because I'm quite a big Volvo fan.
Right.
I love a good Volvo.
I do. I like Volvos.
Yeah. I think I one of my the cars that I would love to own. I'd love an XC90.
Yeah, they're lovely.
The big,
they're nice.
Proper huge.
Big. Yeah, love them. Yeah. Absolutely love them. I think they're an iconic car, iconic shape.
Yeah, I think they will become an iconic car. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. So then I started building out lists. I was thinking, oh, could we do a blindly rate 15? And I was like, ooh, then I narrowed it down to 12.
Yeah, it gets
and
a bit tricky then, doesn't it?
No, this is getting silly. So that wasn't easy, getting it down to 10, but that was good.
No, you've done a good job.
Thank you. Thank you.
There is one thing you've missed.
That?
What are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts are, I don't know, because I still haven't thought about it. Final thoughts are that maybe I should have thought about final thoughts and probably got in there with final thoughts before you got in with final thoughts.
Yeah.
Which means that I now can't think of my final thoughts.
I don't put it on the document.
I think, I'm going to make this quite a deep one. So
let's do it.
And if you think of how much has changed for you, like the conversations you and I were having at the beginning of this year, and look at where you are now, and you're literally days away from moving into your new house.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I think the key thing is, although you might think at the time there's no getting out of this situation, it's just going to carry on forever. I can't see any light at the end of the tunnel with this. I'm going to be stuck. It could take me years to find a place, or could take me years to find a career that's going to work for me, or whatever. Just the message from me is hang in there, because a lot can change very quickly for the better. So and I know with the house, obviously this is going to change like some priorities for me. It's going to give me just some time and energy back, not having to drive between two places twice a week. My commute to Taekwondo goes from 50 miles to 9. What a difference, right? So that's going to make a hell of a difference.
But also, like, there's going to be some opportunities at work for me as well to do some different bits and pieces. So, I think the next 6 months are not going to slow down, are they?
No, not really. But I think you'll have. I think getting your place breaks up the groundhog as well, and you're going to have new things to focus on. And as you say, I think that your priorities. I mean, you're already starting to realise it, that actually priorities are shifting. So, and I'm excited for you about that. So, Dom, what are your final thoughts?
Very similar, I suppose. Actually, I think. And this is great. This would be great, by the way. I love this. I can't reiterate enough how much you nailed the blinding rates there. Because there were I had to properly think and be like, well, what's coming up next? Right? What's he going to throw in there? And and I think some of my thought process surprised you. Going, I think the F40 and the DeLorean are a bit overrated.
Yeah.
And and things like that. So. Absolutely nailed that. I think for me, one of the things I will apologise. Like normally, I'm a bit more on it with the podcasts for everybody, but and I'm not going to say time, because I've had some time to do some of this, but it's the energy. The energy levels for me, I've been in a good but tired place, and I've spoken to a few people recently and gone, I haven't had a day off this year. In fact, I've worked 3 of the bank holidays, and I've had 1 day off to go and do Taekwondo thing on a Friday for a long weekend, and I've had 2 half days off to look at houses, purely because I was like, I can't be asked to try and schedule them like that. It was just I've seen 30 houses, and that's why I'm like, hard work does eventually come to fruition, but I'm very tired, so this is why this podcast has felt a bit. It's felt a bit chaotic for me. Like, I'm pressured because we're recording this weekend and I've done nothing.
Yeah, but I said to you didn't need to worry about it.
I was just why and you properly nailed that. I really do appreciate it. So, and that's not to say I don't enjoy the podcast for everybody's listening and I'm suddenly like, the podcast is a chore. It's just, for the creative freedom to do things, sometimes you do need that time and energy.
You need the headspace for it.
That bored procrastination. Yeah. Whereas, I'm going to be with a paintbrush over the next kind of couple of weeks. I'm sure there's going to be, right, that's an idea. We'll do that for the podcast. And we've done a lot of pre-planning for stuff. So, for me, if I haven't been on my A game, it's, I need a break from work.
Yeah.
I need to do this move. Come out of that tunnel and go and enjoy certain different bits, and then see where the next change takes me. So it's interesting, and for both of us, obviously, we've had I'm going to call it a busy year, and we've got some plans to do some like social stuff as well, which I'm just so looking forward to. And we've got some dates that are being suggested, or at least months that are being suggested. So that should be good.
Nice. Right.
I shall leave it for you to close it off.
I will indeed. So, Dom, just wanted to say big thank you. Thank you for entertaining me. Thank you for listening to all of my interesting stats and stuff about finances and that, which, I don't know, it'd be interesting to see what feedback we get on that. But I thought it was quite interesting because you're sort of charting things over time and how different things are.
We need to do a QI episode, don't we? I need to get like something a buzzer that goes when you say this.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, thank you for entertaining that. I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I wanted to sort of just pay back a bit. You do so much to this podcast, and I thought, right, no, I'm going to do something that you're going to enjoy. I knew you were going to enjoy it. I knew you were. It was actually really fun putting it together because I was thinking, I wonder what Dom's going to think of this, right? So that was good fun. Just want to say a big thank you again to all of our listeners, all viewers, or both. Really appreciate all your continued support. So thank you. Continue to hit like, continue to hit subscribe, and don't hesitate to tell your friends and family about this podcast as well. So the more listeners we have, the better. And looking forward to the.
Don't forget to tell us when we're wrong.
Yeah,
and when we're right.
Exactly.
Like, give us feedback on the content.
Definitely.
Like, if something doesn't work, let us know. But also, like, we do this as a conversational podcast to kind of not incite fury, but just incite people's opinions. And honestly, I love it when someone goes, "You said this, and you're wrong, and it's because of X, Y, Z." And I go, "Well, go on, then tell me why I'm wrong." Have a discussion. Or, "I so agree with you. It's really annoying when this happens." I love that. Like, more.
Yeah. So give us feedback, definitely. And thank you very much again, everybody. And we'll catch you on the next episode. Take care.
Ciao.
Bye.